Talking about an area where shipping lanes, for example, affect about 2/3 of the global maritime trade. So this is not an issue to be sniffed at, is it?
That's absolutely correct. This is a very serious escalation in a series of long-running disputes right across the South China Sea. These tensions have been building for at least 4 years, and I think they've reached a peak in terms of relations with Vietnam and China, with the problems over the oil rig and the clash of naval ships on both sides. So the concern is that this could further escalate and draw in other countries into the related disputes in the other parts of the South China Sea.
Vietnam's Prime Minister has said his country is preparing a legal challenge to China amid these daily reports, really, of its boats being rammed by Chinese vessels. How effective would any legal challenge be?
Well, I think it's probably the best option that Vietnam has got at the moment as the weaker of the two countries. Clearly, the Vietnamese are not going to be able to contest disputed islands nor the location of the oil rig with military force. So that leaves it only with the recourse to international law and Vietnamese domestic law. So I think you're going to see this as part of Vietnam's tactics in the future to challenge what they consider to be China's illegal incursions into the exclusive economic zone of Vietnam, to challenge these in domestic law and international law, and put China's actions under the international spotlight. And that's going to, and the thinking behind that is to essentially embarrass China and to actually force them to actually modify their behaviour. I think that's the Vietnamese tactic.
In Singapore at the weekend, the U.S. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel called China's actions destabilizing. We did see some tense encounters between the Chinese military envoy there as well as Hagel, even in the hallways of the Shangri-La summit. What can the U.S. do in this situation?
Well, I think the US can do a lot more than it has. I mean, up until recently, the US position has been we are not a claimant state. We are not taking a position on these territorial disputes. But the main US interest is obviously in freedom of navigation in the high seas. Now, the problem for the United States is that as these tensions build, the US is reluctantly being drawn in because it is a treaty partner with the Philippines, which is one of the claimant states, also with Japan through the US-Japan Security Agreement. And Japan has its own problems with China over disputed islands. So the US is inexorably being drawn into this, and I think it's clear from the statements of the Obama administration over the last couple of weeks, including on the weekend, that the US is going to take a much more assertive position against China because it views China's actions as essentially examples of unilateralism, which are contrary to international law and to US interests. So I think we can expect to see the US taking a much stronger line against China in the future in regard to these territorial disputes.